Recently, there was a feature-length indie film that premiered at my local rep cinema in Toronto, and it kind of terrified me. Not that I saw it, just that it existed. It was about a big, big, big time in my life. 21 years old, fresh new adult, mad, in love with art. The freakier, the better. Yep, come on world, show me your Wooster groups, your Momachans, your early films of Jim Henson. I was so eager for it all. I was in this crazy theater group, DNA Theater, who made exciting, super challenging, confrontational, scary, sometimes gorgeous works. Hiller Latoya, the artistic director, was a mad genius. Or he was a self-indulged, drug-addled, talented asshole. I could never really decide which. The person who made this film, I imagine, must have had a very similar dilemma, or not. We were different in some very key ways. We were both in DNA's infamous 8-hour Hamlet. I played Ophelia, and she was part of this chorus that Hiller named the Groupies. Basically, he tacked it on to comment on the events. I was 21, fresh new adult. She was 13, which is an elderly child. I can only begin to imagine what it would be like to be that young in that environment. The rehearsals were equally as intense as the shows, often in this cramped, cockroach-infested apartment. Were we analyzing Shakespeare? Yeah, a little bit, but mostly it was more like, okay, you, what's your name? Ophelia? Okay, come here. As we've rehearsed last time, it'll take you exactly 16 seconds to go from the top of the ramp to the bottom of the ramp. When you get to the bottom of the ramp, the Bruckner is gonna blast out of the speakers, and then you're gonna say, what's your line? Oh, what a noble mind is here o'erthrown. Okay, you're gonna say that, you're gonna repeat, you're gonna say it, you're gonna repeat, you're gonna repeat, you're gonna 4 times. Okay, let's go, hear it. I hate it! I hate it! No, 6 times is too many times, that's too many times. We need 2 more times, we need 2 more times, we need, no, that's too much. We need 5 times, 5 times, let's hear it again. Okay. Yes, 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 yes. Okay. He was mad, crazy. And today it would have been bipolar with a manic episode, full-blown OCD, side effects from the massive amounts of codeine that he had put into his lemonade. But, in 1989, it was just mad. Hiller had absolutely no filters. When you're a younger person, someone having absolutely no filters is a high virtue. Later on, you realize that having some virtues is not just a stupid adult compromise. It actually can be good, especially when you're dealing with talking to a 13-year-old actor and you are a 30-something theater director who is mad. I didn't see the film. As I said, I was too kind of terrified in ways that I didn't even understand why. I imagine I will see it one day. Sarah was a very precocious 13-year-old, and I imagine by now she's a full adult, accomplished artist, but I just wasn't ready. She moved into the neighborhood by accident a couple of years ago, and we had talked. I ran into her, and I knew the film was coming. But what unsettled me the most was that when she was describing, in preparation for this film, she said, and I've really been studying cults. And I just went, huh. Cults. Cults. Oh, for all the craziness, the word cult and the term cult had never really occurred to me in any sort of serious way when I thought about DNA theater. But then I thought, okay, there's something about the word cults, because cults, everybody's implicated. It's not just Hiller, it's everyone, because in order for there to be a cult leader, there have to be cult followers. And I wanted to just dismiss it out of hand, but then I thought, no, let's look at this in a serious way. Let's think of when DNA might have tipped over into cultiness. Okay, 1, the time when the women of DNA took a 4-hour cockroach poo cleaning festival in his apartment slash rehearsal space. But was that cultiness? I don't know. It felt like self-preservation. It was certainly feministically regressive, but not culty per se. And then, two, when a member of DNA, not me, got sort of swarmed by the police because he fired a starting pistol outside of a hotel where a summit, an international summit, was being held. And but anyhow, it wasn't really culty because both Hiller and the actor were really kind of into it in a stupid way. And then 3, when a group of us had to wait 4 hours while Hiller rehearsed with inanimate objects before us. Inanimate objects. But was that culty? I don't know, because we had a hilarious time. We played cards and we laughed and laughed about what an idiot he was and how insane he was. And then 4, when I went to his apartment at 2 a.m. to help him work on a grant proposal and found him stoned and sitting naked on a chair in his patio and screaming out sentences that he'd been working out into the night. But I had offered at 8 o'clock, and I just didn't realize that I assumed that he would think there was a time limit on that offer, but he didn't. 2 o'clock, kind of my own fault. Anyhow, but culty, I don't know. And then there was that awful time when he fired Sarah's younger friend, also named Sarah, in front of the whole cast, and he was screaming, "You are a mote in the eye of this production, out you go!" And we were horrified, and both the Sarahs left, and both in shock and horror, and one in tears, we had had a mutiny afterwards, and we almost all quit en masse because he was so horrible, and I can't even remember how we came back, blocked it out maybe. I also can't really include as cultiness the time when, newly cast as Ophelia, he told me his initial concept for the mad scene, which would have gotten me locked up by the Vice Squad, or at least killed my parents from shock. Anyhow, but I said no, and he accepted that. And also the time with the onstage blood ritual, I also said no. Weirdly, I came to the conclusion that the most culty thing that happened in DNA was how he got us to stay on with all this bad behavior. Every now and then, he would just shower you with praise and appreciation. He'd notice some tiny little thing that you did in the course of performance, and he'd comment on it and make you feel special and seen and heard and practically a genius. And because of the no filter thing, you knew it was genuine. Seen, important. It made you feel like you were working together, all for a higher purpose. See, and that's where it veers into cultiness. He made you staying there, dealing with the abuse much longer than you should have. But then I eventually left. After Hamlet, I didn't work with DNA for many years. I was getting tired of all the shenanigans, and I wanted to try out being the center of my own life as opposed to him. At the end, maybe also from his, I had said no too many times. It was mutual. Maybe I wasn't a good enough cult member or good enough for long enough. He passed a couple of years ago. By then, we had reconnected. We'd formed a friendship of sorts that was based on, weirdly, me saying no and standing up to him. The early confrontations had formed some sort of mutual respect. And when he passed, I was part of a core group of people who planned his celebration of life. It was after this celebration that Sarah's film came out, and it turns out that it wasn't about the Hamlet time at all. It was, filmically it makes better sense, and so I get that. But it was actually after I had left, the show that he did when I was gone, and I remember hearing, just through hearsay, that Hiller had formed this very inappropriate, obsessive attraction to Sarah, and she was 15 years old, still, very young. And it must have been awful for her, and lonely. And no wonder, in retrospect, it all looked like a cult. No wonder she's going to great lengths to process it. Learning about her film made me realize how bad it must have been for her, and I feel for her, but it doesn't change my complicated affection for the man and the less complicated appreciation of his work. During the planning of the celebration, I spent some time with Hiller's remarkably sane and sweet, guileless even, younger brother. He told me that when they were kids, Hitler was marked out as a piano prodigy and therefore didn't have to do any homework or go to school or really do anything he didn't want to do from a very early age. If you suspect that you have a gifted child, just, take this all in. It was just another piece of the disturbing puzzle of him, and I realized I really enjoy a puzzle. One of the last times I saw him, we were sitting on his porch after much wine, and he just seemed sad and old and disappointed. And he said to me, I really thought that by now there'd be somebody special in my life to take care of me. And it's all because I'm not handsome. Now, Hitler's face wasn't his fortune, or whatever that horrible expression is, but, fine. His looks were absolutely not an impediment of themselves to love or whatever, but it made me realize that there was not going to be any 11th hour epiphany for this man. I mean, not handsome, but no, you treated everyone around you like crap, like tools to be used. But, I couldn't help it. I felt sorry for him, and I miss him. He couldn't work the way that he worked anymore. And, mostly that's a good thing. I want to look forward to a time when people can create beautiful art without treating people like crap and like tools. And I've got to believe that that's possible. Thank you.